And so Reno is now beachfront property. Actually, I bought my house. I was speculating that it would become beachfront property up in the southwest of Reno, up in Somerset. But anyway, okay, so we have beachfront property, and we have a submarine out there providing protective services against Iranian missiles. Well, everybody who lives in that area, patrolled by that submarine, can enjoy that protective services jointly without one person's consumption making the other person's, reducing the availability of the same thing to the other person. So I say, look, let's call, I'll do the second one first. Let's call the negative rights non-rivalrous. Okay? These are the rights that can all have at the same time. My rights claim doesn't interfere with your rights claim. It's joint consumption. If you don't like non-rivalrous because it sounds too much like an economist, how about harmonious? These are rights that are compatible with each other. They're not in conflict with each other. But in the case of positive rights, my rights claim imposes the duty to do something, to provide something. And that's in conflict. I have a right to receive, you have a duty to give. That's conflict. That's rivalrous or conflicting. And of course we know Thomas Jefferson is the author of the Declaration of Independence. And in the Declaration of Independence he said that these negative, non-rivalrous, harmonious human rights are unalienable. What does that mean? It means you got them. And nobody can take them away from you. They are yours. You can't even give them away. Actually, in modern English, the word is inalienable. But hey, Jefferson is Jefferson. And he wrote unalienable. It's good enough for me. And of course, we know in the Declaration he said that among these rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Note, it's the pursuit of happiness, not the attainment of happiness. That's in keeping with the notion of non-rivalrous rights. I have a right to pursue my happiness, but nobody has a duty to provide it to me. And I've written more than I perhaps should have in my 40-year career as an academic. In several articles that are mainly economic rather than political. This is a political talk or philosophical talk, whatever you want to look. I call them voluntary exchange rights. I do this for you, you do this for me. We mutually consent, no force, no fraud. We got a deal. Non-rivalrous rights. Property was so important to the founders that James Madison, who was typical of that group, in an essay called Property, which he wrote in 1792, wrote the following: as a man is said to have a right to his property, he may equally be said to have property in his rights. Your rights are yours. They're inalienable. You own them. You own yourself. Nobody else does. Freedom. Boy, that's a warm and fuzzy word. What does that mean? Well, Lincoln famously said, we all declare for liberty, but in using the same word, we do not all mean the same thing. Boy, isn't that the truth? That's the whole point of this talk. What does it mean? Well, there are two meanings. There's a non-rivalrous meaning and a rivalrous meaning. The non-rivalrous meaning is the absence of interference from others. The duty on others is to refrain from interfering in or obstructing what you want to do, as long as what you want to do doesn't trespass on the equal rights of other people. Do what you want as long as you're letting everybody else do what they want. The rivalrous meaning of freedom, however, is empowerment. Is a person free who can't buy medical services? Is a person free who can't buy a suitable house? Well, about that we don't worry anymore because, you know, just buy any house you want, the federal government will pay for it. Or are you free if you can't take the kind of vacation that you want? Freedom there in the rivalrous sense is you are free if you have the power, the ability to do what you want. Now, look, there are no private property rights for words. I don't have a private property right to the right freedom, to the word freedom. Nobody else does either. My point here is to tell you that there are these two separate meanings, and they are in conflict with each other. You have to decide for yourself which meaning makes sense. Now, you recognize that the image there on that is Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who in 1941 gave a speech which has since come to be called the Four Freedoms speech. His four freedoms are freedom of speech and expression. That's non-rivalrous. I think that's a legitimate freedom. I think that's a legitimate sense of freedom. Notice, freedom of speech does not impose a duty on other people to listen. Okay? His second freedom, freedom of worship. I think that's non-rivalrous. I think that's harmonious. We can each worship in the way that our conscience dictates without trespassing against the equal right of other people to do the same. Right? Then he had this one, freedom from want. Now, what does that mean? First of all, if I didn't want anything, I might as well be dead. Right? I mean, is there a person who doesn't want anything? So I don't even know what the word means in this sense, except that he was talking about, of course, freedom from things like poverty, and that's what he had in mind. But that's a rivalrous freedom claim. Because if your freedom, as you claim it, is imposing a duty on other people to provide you that which you don't have, that for which you are in want. And then freedom from fear. These are his four freedoms. Freedom from fear. Again, I don't know what that means. I guess you have to decide for yourself where we go with that. Now, we have First Amendment freedoms. They are speech, press, religion, and assembly or association. They're all non-rivalrous. We can all exercise those rights without trespassing on the rights of others to do the same. How about equality? Ooh, what does that mean? Well, there's a non-rivalrous meaning, and here I'm going right back to Hayek. He coined the term isonomia from the Greek. Iso meaning the same and nomos meaning law. Isonomia means equality before the law. The law treats everybody exactly alike no matter who you are or what race you are or what sexual preference you have or anything else. The law is the law. It applies to everybody. Don't tell me who you are. I want to find out what you did. Justice must be blind in that sense. Now, the rivalrous meaning of equality is what Robert Nozick in Anarchy, State, and Utopia, what was that, 73 or 72, 73, somewhere around there, what he called end-state equality. That is the equality of outcomes. Equality of outcomes. There are at least two sports fans in this room. Now, let's consider a sports analogy.